Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, James Protin. Every week I will be sharing the experiences that have defined my journey and talking with people who have their own powerful story to tell. It's about doing better and being better in life, business, and all things in between. The visually inclined can catch us on YouTube, or you can check us out on just about every podcast platform. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We are on location today. We are with our guest, Marta Sauret Greca. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for having us at your home in this little studio you have. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
This is where you do your business.
Yes.
Right? What is your business called?
Media the Creative Agency.
Tell us a little bit about that. We're going to get into some other stuff too, but let's start with that. You are you a solopreneur or do you have a team with you or?
We have a team, and we started the agency about 10 years ago with my husband, actually. And he was in our former home 2 homes ago, like in the basement doing God knows what. I didn't understand what the heck he was doing.
Yeah.
He was then going
doing husband stuff
on weekends and whenever. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? And he was starting our photography and videography. Back then, that's what it was, photography and videography.
Okay.
And that was very heavy. And then obviously pandemic happened, and we really did evolve way more into the marketing side of it. And we are now a boutique agency for holistic wellness and beauty experts who are practitioners who just want to transform the lives of their clients and just hand off their marketing to us.
Oh, that is awesome. And you know, that is such a very cool and dramatically growing niche market. I mean, it's, you know, that it just explodes. It's everywhere.
Well, it's a passion for me. It's those are the clients that I'm reading their content that I'm trying to learn from, obviously, and I'm just at the edge of my seat. I can't get enough of it. And then I find myself repeating it to everyone. It's like, did you know that brown fatting is good for you?
So you've become somewhat of an expert on wellness, health and wellness, and
I would say so. Not to the level of my clients, but that's kind of the joke, is that God didn't give me the healing powers that they have, but he gave me the gift to be able to market the heck out of them.
That is cool. You have to understand it, the market. You can't sell their service or their product if you don't understand it.
Correct. And you have to be passionate about it. Like, you have to be so lit up that it's like the fire is within you too, and you can't wait to tell everyone about it. And then that's how you get creative with it.
Well, and you can see that in you because, you know, this is the first time we've met in person. We've been connected on social media for several years, but just the way you post and the way that you put things out there, there's almost like a joy about you that you can see that you love what you do.
I do. Yeah.
And that's important.
I mean, that's the key of it. And even though as business owners and leaders, we know that, right? But even it just continuously seems to grow, I find, within daily life where I get these beautiful reminders of like, oh yeah, I'm just supposed to enjoy a beautiful life and love what I do every day and savor the beautiful moments, and everything else will just fall into place. It's nice whenever those reminders also divinely just come through, and it's like, oh, thanks for that. That was awesome.
When you think about, you know, I read something, because I wake up every morning and first thing I do is I say thank you. You know, when you get to be my age, you realize that every day is truly a blessing, right? I mean, the alternative is it's there, and it becomes clearer the older you get, and it's like comes closer to you. But just the odds of the 4 of us, Nick and Alex are over there, being born is
that's my whole platform.
It's a miracle.
I mean, every week when I get the reminders from my midwife, it's 10 weeks, your baby is doing this. And I'm like, sending it to everyone I know. How is this not a miracle? This is crazy. This thing is the size of a plum, and the liver is already working. This is crazy. And someone's like, are you not over this yet? You're on your 7th.
Hey, well, that's where I was going to go next. So you are expecting, congratulations, baby number 7.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute. I think this is wonderful. But, you know, young couples in today's world don't set out to have 7 children.
Right.
You know, that's something that is rather unique. So was that a conscious decision that you and your husband made, or is it just you just let it go naturally? Or
we just let it go naturally. I am one of 5, so I guess it doesn't seem too unnatural to me, but he's one of 2, and we just love it.
How does he handle all of this with all? It's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
You know, and having I have one sister. You know, and when all of our grandchildren and everything around, it's overwhelming at times. Even now, how does he handle it?
I feel like really privileged and special because he's such an introvert.
Yeah.
And he is like his way to recharge is to just be alone in his own world. And so that he gets to enjoy our presence every single day. And we're so numerous and loud. It's like, it feels pretty special, you know? But so we both actually are more of introverts where we recharge with quiet and alone time. So I think it's just a matter of both of us being mindful that we need that time to recharge. I'm a morning person. I wake up a couple hours before everybody else does, and he's a night owl. So once everyone's in bed, he needs those 2, 3, 4 hours to decompress. And it's also when he has his spurs of genius that hit him. So
well, I mean, when you're able to get to that space where you can be still after being chaotic all that time. See, I'm like you. I spend a couple of hours in the morning in the quiet preparing myself for the chaos, whereas he decompresses from it, right?
And it works really well because at 8:30 I'm tapped out, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so I can handle the morning like it's just part of life, and he can do that at nighttime. And so we kind of,
good team.
pass the baton.
You're a good team. That's very cool. So, boy number 5.
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot.
People say something, boys are this, boys are that. I don't notice that. It's just kind of like each child is individual and different and has their own gifts and their own talents and their own challenges. And it's so funny. They're all different, just so different from one another.
You have such just a calm demeanor about you, and not what I expected. No, seriously. When you think
Do I look more high strung on social?
No, I expect you to be not high strung, but just busy because you're an entrepreneur. You have a business. You do public speaking. You do all of these things, and you have 6 kids and a dog, and you're expecting number 7. That's a lot. So I didn't expect you to be this calm and kind of
I think
collected.
You kind of have to be.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. I think some people just are given what their personality could handle or can enjoy. So.
And I think one of my daughters has 4 children, and I think I'm going by her because she's just all day long.
I'm sure that there's days that I do look like that, and I know that there are.
Do you find in it doesn't define you? I think mom is the most important title that any human can have.
Yeah.
Right? Because none of us is anything without our mother. I mean, we're not here without our mother, right? So when you take that mom title and tag it to being an entrepreneur, and I think our mutual friend, Dr. Shelley, she uses that term mompreneur a lot.
Yes.
So explain that. How does that blend? Because on the surface, especially from a male perspective, those two things really shouldn't go together, but they do.
Yeah. Something off the wall, not off the wall, but is coming to me that is like my own mom is the whole reason why I have the focus of the holistic health and wellness. Okay. If you look around the studio, this is, but this is from my dad's side, but there's so many pieces in the studio.
This is beautiful, by the way. That's why we decided to do it here. That's amazing.
A lot of his books and
that's an 18th century piece
from France. Yeah,
France.
But there's other pieces like that sofa over there that you guys can't see, but it's from my mom's side, and just every little piece that I have in here I've repurposed. That's from my mom's side. That's from my mom's side, and she unfortunately passed away 2 weeks after our last baby was born. Like to the day, 2 weeks. Answered prayers says like I just want to see her again because once you have a home birth, you can't leave the house for 8 days. So I just every single day was praying. I just want to see her again one more time. So when she was diagnosed with cancer about 6 years ago, and she beat that, then it came back, and that ultimately what took her life is when I became like engrossed. Just I couldn't get enough of the information about anti-cancer, prevention in your life. How can you live a life to prevent cancer so that your family can spend more days with you not around the hospital bed, not at doctor's appointments. And then obviously I became obsessed with what can I feed her to beat this cancer on top of the traditional medical care? What can I surround her with? I mean, there's pictures of me I'm like rubbing her feet and putting incense around her, frankincense, and then taking her to appointments for infrared saunas. And vitamin C IVs weren't as prominent at the time, but I was reading a lot about them. And so I'm so glad that they're so readily available. So my own mom is the passion and the inspiration every single day behind my obsession with what my clients do. And to go back to your question, though, I think that entrepreneurship and motherhood actually work so well together, because I find that our kids can be the ones to hold us more accountable between our boundaries and our standards and how much we ask and our cash flow, because we need to provide for our family.
Sure.
And as women and as business leaders, we can err towards the side of we're afraid to ask for too much, or, we price according to what other people want. But when you have a family to provide for, it's easier to step up and ask for what you need, because they need it.
That is so interesting, because I lost my father to cancer in 2017, and one of the things that really got my attention, my parents live, my mother still does, in Southern California. So I was going out there and spending time, and he was in the hospital one of the times I went out before he went on hospice, and I talked to his oncologist, and I hadn't up until that point, and I asked him what the prognosis and this and that and the other, because I was getting mixed signals from my mom, right? And they had been together 60 years, and it was like it was almost like she was in denial. So and I could tell he was obviously sick. My father was a really big, kind of robust guy, and so his oncologist was great. He was very honest with me, and he said, "Listen, we're not treating your father. If we tried to treat your father, we would kill him before the cancer did. He's not physically able to deal with that. What we're doing for him right now is for your mother more than him." So it was, I started to think about, because my father was always athletic. He was a teacher and a coach and all those things. He was always healthy. But as he got older, he started to get more sedentary and got away from those types of things. And by the time he got sick, he didn't have the physical strength or the immune system to even put up a fight, so to speak. So when you talk about holistic approaches and what you just talked about with your mother, people don't really get that, because it's not in the mainstream of what you see. You can't turn on the television these days, for example, without seeing some sort of a commercial for some sort of pill or medicine. So can you get us a little bit deeper into, as you get older, what are some of the things that you can do? I'm 64, okay? So as I move down the road, I'm thinking, okay, if I live as long as my father, he was 84, I have 20 years. What can I do in the next 20 years to keep myself healthy, so that if something would happen and I would get sick, that I am at least able to put up a fight?
Right.
What does that look like?
Right. And by the way, that was the story with my mom too. She had been through 2 heart valve replacements, something with her thyroid, and it got to the point where her body was not going to be able to sustain the treatments necessary to potentially cure the cancer, but it was untreatable or incurable. So this is something that I'll actually be talking about with my own guest on next week's podcast on the Mindset Moves show. She's a doctor who does kidney transplants, and she's a doctor of kidneys. I'm sure she could tell you the technical term what that is. And so her goal is kind of like, now with her health coaching, to be able to educate her own clients so that they never have to be patients, right? Or so that they can extend the time before they can be kidney patients. And so it goes with anything, not just cancer, but also diabetes and other diseases that you can fend off for way longer if, and extend the life. And then the question is, well, how long do you want to live? It's not about how long do you want to live, but do you want to live a majority of that end of life suffering?
Right.
Do you want to live a good life? Do you want to
Right.
be like, I think I have like magic water because both my neighbors are 90 years old and they're out there mowing their lawns.
Nice.
I might start doing some underground research on what's going on here, but or do you want to live
Yeah.
like that, right? You're in your 90s and you're out doing.
You're 100% right. I mean, my mother-in-law's 92, and she hasn't missed a beat. She still drives. She lives alone. She goes to the casino. But does so many things, and she's still living a vibrant life
Yes.
at 92. Then you see somebody who is in their 70s or even early 80s that is just wow, and they're just sitting and waiting.
Right.
And so that's a very important question, because as you get closer to end of life, I think it's the stat is something like 0.001% of all of us will make it 100 years, right? It's a very rare thing. And when you think about what 100 years is, 100 years, it's not a very long time, especially, once you've passed half of it, you have a way to go yet. But once you get to the halfway point of that,
Things start to fall apart.
yeah.
But I think the with that joke of, because we do have a lake in the backyard, so I joke like maybe it's just magic water. But I think that answers a big question as they spend a ton of time outdoors.
I'm going to go jump in for you.
Physically, apparently it's really good for you.
Yeah.
Physically, just being out in nature and doing and being as having as much movement as they can in their life.
Right.
That's a big part of it. And obviously then again on the show next week, we'll be talking about it with my client a little bit more, but and obviously if this airs afterwards, just catch the replay. But obviously your nourishment is a big part of it everywhere. And that does take some preparation and it takes involvement, but it's kind of a no-brainer, right? If you're going to eat something in a package that has a lot of ingredients, and sugar is one of the main ones, sugar feeds cancer. And my kids kind of went nuts over this because all of a sudden I was like reading all the labels. I'm like, that has sugar.
No more.
She has sugar. I'm so pissed.
Yeah.
Everything has sugar. And all of a sudden they couldn't eat a lot of the things that I was like not even thinking about, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so that's a huge part of it. And that takes an everyday effort. And as a mom of 7, I don't meal prep. But I just try to do a better job at being more mindful of what I keep in the house, because if you don't keep it in the house, then you're not going to eat it.
Right.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And then, obviously a huge part is sleep. We've talked about movement. We talked about nourishment. And a lot of it is not medications. It's not getting to the point where you need surgeries to remove tumors, but it's just in your everyday life. Sleep, move, eat better. That's kind of the gist of it.
What do you do? Now, you're pregnant for the seventh with your
Yes.
7th child, so you don't look like you have 7 children.
Thank you.
Okay, you look really fit and healthy. So, what do you do? Is there anything special or out of the ordinary that when you talk about rest and movement and those things? What do you do?
Well, in addition to the waking up in the morning to ensure that I'm prioritizing that movement time, so my strength training. As soon as I drop the kids off at the bus stop, I go for my walk outside, no matter how cold it is, up and down the hill. And I do try to be more conscious about what I'm putting in my body. But then I joke that like at 8 p.m. I'm watching a show and somebody's eating a cheese sandwich and I have to have a cheese sandwich, which is the opposite of what I would talk about. But we're all human.
Absolutely.
And ensuring that I'm in bed by 8:30. And sometimes, again, I'll turn on the shows and I'm addicted and I don't get enough sleep. But 8:30 to 4:30, that's a good 8 hours of sleep consistently. But I do have clients who are acupuncturists, chiropractors, functional medicine doctors. They are offering services like cryoskin. And so there was a lot of cryoskin that went on this body after the last birth. And machines like the nanofractioner that is micro needles that invigorate the natural collagen of your body to naturally heal scarring, and you're kind of burning the freezing fat in a way that again is encouraging the natural multiplication of the collagen that you naturally make in your body, as opposed to, there's nothing wrong with this if you love it, but as opposed to fillers or Botox, which actually could potentially be adding toxins into your body, which then cause inflammation, which then is a ripple effect. But again, anything in moderation. If you love that stuff, do it.
Well, Botox is in a slightly different form is very toxic.
Yes, yeah. And I hesitate because I do know a lot of people utilize it, but
sure.
I will say that I'm big on, share your truths, and if somebody takes it the wrong way, that's certainly not my intent.
Well, I think, yes, we don't stand on precedent. We don't worry about offending anybody, because we're all about the truth and speaking the truth and living the truth. So if somebody is sensitive enough that they get offended by that, and all the Botox people, write to me, not Marta. That's right. That's send all
If you
your
love it, just do it in moderation.
send all your cards and letters this way. Alex will respond. He'll come to your house.
Yeah.
and he'll answer all your questions. But everybody's different, and that's the thing. My wife is diabetic. She has an insulin pump. She's been insulin. When we met, she was a runner. She was an athlete. She did all these things. And one day she was 40 years old, and all of a sudden she has diabetes, and she went from giving herself shots, and she finally got on the pump, and it's regulated. But it's been 20 years now. And after 20 years, her doctor still can't, the same doctor still cannot explain to her, tell her why this happened.
But I will tell you, my dad has diabetes. He actually also was diagnosed with Alzheimer's shortly after my mom's passing. Apparently, it had been progressing for 10 years, but we had no idea because we all paid so much attention to my mom.
Right.
That when we take his blood and we check his blood for the levels, and let's say we do the insulin, yes, the levels will go down.
Right.
But he experiences the same results when I take him for a walk around the lake.
Really?
Same results. If I'm feeding him a nice dinner here that is low on carb, full of protein, making him eat his vegetables, bribing him to drink less coffee and wine, trying to get him to drink a little bit more water, taking him for a walk around the lake, which of course takes us an hour with him, but it's good. It allows me to try to be in the present moment.
Sure.
Instead of thinking this could take me 10 minutes. But it's good. It's a nice experience together. Same effects. Yes. And I'm not against insulin. Obviously, he takes it 4 times a day. Obviously, everybody's
you can't.
diabetic.
Honestly, you can't.
Diabetic, and so many people are diabetic is what I mean.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. I mean, it's so debilitating. I mean, it really is. And it's, we know about cancers. We know about heart disease and everything. But there's still a lot about diabetes that we don't know.
And both are fueled by toxins, and it's not, again, just the food that you put in your body, but the toxins around you. And it is getting harder and harder to clean out those toxins from your life. And you would just start one by one as much as you could.
And you mentioned chiropractors, and I wanted to touch on that because I have several friends who are chiropractors. I'm a big believer in chiropractic, but they really get the kind of natural and holistic healing. And why do you think that is? What is it about chiropractic that leads most of them, if not all, go down that path rather than traditional medicine?
I think because a lot of their education gives them a deeper understanding of how everything is connected and everything talks to each other. And when you fix one problem, it becomes a beautiful ripple effect, and vice versa. When something starts to break down, it becomes a ripple effect. And so because they're so well educated in how the body works, they have such a deeper understanding of it's a holistic approach.
Excellent. So let's pivot a little bit. Talked about a podcast. Tell me about that.
I have the Mindset Moves show, and we air it on Roku. You can download the channel media and watch the Mindset Moves show, and then we do record it live in our Facebook community. That is the Minimalist Method for Prosperous Entrepreneurs. And then, of course, we blast it on all our socials, all of our email lists. Yes.
Interesting. So how long have you been doing that?
I don't remember. But I think we've got hundreds of episodes, and we do like to bring on business leaders who are mostly holistic minded to make business growth easier for the listeners.
Okay. Interesting. That's fascinating because this is not so you own a business, you run a business, you have 6 children, you have a dog, now you're doing a podcast. I mean, I'm basically semi-retired and doing a podcast, and it's hard.
Well, it's not as high production as you guys. It's just me on Zoom meeting my clients and telling their stories. And
that's impressive. That's powerful. Yeah. Even just from a time management perspective, just to be able to fit something else in, it's another another item on the plate.
Yeah, but also it's utilizing everything together as a harmonious effort to bring forward your goals, and that's what I think the podcast does do.
Yeah, and everything that you're doing ties together.
Yes.
And you had said you're not a good multitasker, but you actually are, because you've taken your life and everything that you're doing and you've connected all the dots.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive.
We're saying we're like, nobody's a good multitasker, right? So it is important that I block off the time. If I'm going to be on my phone, it needs to be during a segmented time that I don't have my kids around me, because there is that nervous reaction response that I think a lot of people are unconscious about, that when you're on your phone or your laptop and your kids are talking to you, like, you get anxious because you're addicted to that device, and now your kids who are right in front of you, wanting your attention. So it's good to have that segmented time of when I'm on the devices and when I'm just present with the kids.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. So you and I looked at, you were born in Rome.
Yes.
Tell me about that. When did you come to the States? When?
Sure. So my dad is from France, Gascony, France. He moved to Rome when he was 18, and he met my mom, fell in love. They have the cute meet story. And I always joke, I'm like, you saw his bathroom and you still dated him? Because, they have, and for the whole life, that was like the big opposite. She was always very clean and orderly, and he's a philosopher. He's PhD philosophy. He's a theologian. Okay. Like, if you meet him, he took pride in his collection of 10,000 books, and he worked for the Vatican. And I was baptized by Pope John Paul II.
Okay, time out.
Yeah,
you can't just say that just off the matter of fact. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, you can't just throw the Vatican out there like in the Pope and just like, you were baptized by the Pope.
Pope John Paul II. That's my fun fact.
That's not a fun fact. That's freaking amazing.
That's why my husband married me. I think that's the only reason. He could overlook all the other strong Italian tendencies.
He did, because the Pope.
I mean, he held me for probably 0.2 seconds.
Well, that's more than most people.
My sister had an accident on him, so we like to joke that she baptized him.
That is very cool. That is such a cool family story. Every family has those kind of stories, but that's amazing. Yeah. That is amazing. So what did your father do at the Vatican?
He was in charge of one of the philanthropic offices in terms of delegating when funds were coming in, where funds would go, is my layman's understanding of it.
Okay.
But my dad, again, he's a very chill, relaxed, positive philosopher, and that was a high pressure job.
Yeah.
The Vatican, yes, it's the center of Catholicism, which you would think is, religion and God is beauty, but it was a very political.
It's a business, and it's very political
position. It is a government.
It is,
and it's very political, and it was very high pressure. And we actually, one time I remember vividly just having this feeling like, Mom, I don't want to go to school today. I don't think any of us should go to school. And I think I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7. And she was like, I was surprised, like, okay, none of you are going to go to school today. I guess I was adamant, like, I don't think any of us should leave the house today. And sure enough, we received a bomb threat that there was a bomb that had been placed in a vehicle outside of our home. And there was multiple times, I remember bombs going off near, and you don't hear about Rome, right near our home. And also the economy wasn't the greatest, and he just felt like if we stayed there, first of all, he was kind of just miserable at his job. Yeah. If we stayed there, we weren't going to have a financial future because he didn't come from money. My mom did, but she married the philosopher, she ran away with the wind. So, so they just felt like they didn't have what was necessary in order for us to stay there and be successful. So my dad took a position at La Roche University here in Pittsburgh, got here, moved his 5 kids here, and they said the position is no longer available. And he said, the heck it isn't. I need you to give it to me for at least a year. And it was so stressful for him moving 5 kids here. He actually did.
Now, how old were you?
I was 9.
Okay.
Yes, he actually did have a heart attack because it was so stressful.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes. So, but, and that's kind of that's the pivotal part of the money story that I tell too, of, just having that moment of things are so stressful financially with 5 kids in a new country. He had a heart attack. So I kind of carried that with me. And
that has to stay with you.
but also I give it a lot of credit. My parents were awesome. I'm like, wow, you
have
awesome. Yeah.
I mean, that's, you have a pretty cool, you need to write a book.
I did write a book, but it wasn't about this.
So let's go back to you saying you can't multitask. Where did that come from? I mean, is there any, let's do this. Is there anything you haven't done?
I mean, I guess you're right. That is multitasking.
Sure it is.
We did take a lot of the content in the blogs and the podcasts and the lives, and we turned it into the book, The Minimalist Method for Prosperous Entrepreneurs, where we just kind of lay out step by step how to declutter your life in order to allow abundance and more peace and prosperity.
So matter of fact about all this stuff. And it's, I'm doing some of these things, but not until I was in my 60s. I wrote a book that's going to be published in February. So, working and doing all these things, I know how hard this stuff is. And I wasn't like mom to 6 kids. I mean, you have 6 human beings that you are the most important creature human on earth to. Everything, their entire lives revolve around you. Mm-hmm. And you're doing all this stuff. But yet, I'm not a good multitasker.
I guess you're right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean,
we all can look back.
You need to give yourself credit because, when I was driving up here, in fact, my wife asked me this morning, she said, who's the guest on the show? I told her I was doing a podcast, and I told her, and she said, well, how do you know her? And I said, I don't. I've never met her before. I know her on social media.
In my basement.
I said, she said, well, where are you doing it? I said, and I think in her basement. And she said, this is the first time you're meeting her. And I said, yeah. And she's like, what the heck are you going to talk about? Then I get a text, just let yourself in.
My husband was home.
But it's just it's just, you're just so even and so matter of fact about life in general. You have such a great attitude. If you could bottle that and sell it, you'd be a multimillionaire.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't see any stress in you at all.
Thank you. I mean, I did just have a massage. So that's
well, that could have something to do with it.
It took a little longer than expected to get back home. So
See, I thought you were at a business meeting or something. You're getting a massage, so we're sitting here wandering around your basement, and you're getting a massage.
Sorry, I was burying the lead on that, but it's a monthly meeting,
No, listen, I applaud that.
Time too.
Yeah, no. I applaud that, and we have no agenda for today, and that's what I told her. She said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, whatever comes up.
We'll figure it out.
And all of this stuff. When I walked in the door, all I knew about you was that you were the CEO of a marketing agency, and you had 6 children, and were expecting child number 7, and that was it. That's all I knew. I didn't even know how to pronounce your name. Other Marta Greca, I got that. But all of these things, you don't wave the flag, and you should. You have in 37 years. I'm sorry saying your age. I apologize.
I don't care.
But in your lifetime, you have done more and seen more and accomplished more than most people that are twice your age. I mean, that is impressive.
Thank you.
I mean, but you're not out there doing that. Look at me. In a world, in a society that does exactly that encourages that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because I do feel like we do a little bit of that, and obviously that imposter syndrome that everybody talks about comes up, and and you're like, do I do that too much? Am I being humble enough? And so I appreciate you saying that.
Well, it's hard too, and it's even harder for a female than for a male, because when you are an entrepreneur, specifically if you're a solo entrepreneur, you're your brand, right? So you are the brand. So you have to put yourself out there, right? And the more pictures of yourself, and the more people say, oh yeah, look, there she goes again,
right?
And it's
that's
not
our problem, right?
It is, right? And I will tell you, and I don't think Shelley will mind me saying this, she has to get that a lot, because she is really good at what she does.
It's in her 13th book, I think.
Right.
Yes.
Right. She's really good at what she does, and she markets herself. She's really brilliant at marketing. She really is. She's just a natural.
Yeah.
And so, but when you do that, when you're an intelligent, attractive woman and you're doing that, it's like, hey, well, look at her. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Another picture, another ball gown, another this, another that. And people have a tendency to poo-poo everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They, but so for guys, it's not that bad, you know, but it's hard for a woman to be in your position and do what you do and walk that line. And imposter syndrome is a thing, man. That could knock you off your feet. It really could.
Yeah, it comes up for everyone, I think.
Absolutely.
There was something recently that was eye-opening of someone that I met at a party, and I'm thinking, oh, just rubbing her the wrong way. That's usually my first reaction is, oh, they just don't like me, and I guess that's okay, you know?
Yeah.
Because, again, immigrant from Italy, different hygiene. I had a little bit of lice when I was 10 years old. Lots of bullying. And so I have this innate childhood story that, they just don't like me. And it turns out that in multiple occasions that I was like, I just rubbed her the wrong way. I'm not for her. I'm too much. That they would then reach out and ask me to work with them in terms of like my services. Or they came out and said, you know, I was triggered by you. I worked through it, but I'm triggered by you because you have 6 kids and you are doing all these other things. And it's obviously hard to say without sounding boastful, but those moments are like, oh, I guess that could be triggering, and you just take it and you try to learn from it and grow from it.
Well, it is. It's hard because I noticed, you know, I write a blog every day, and when I write in the blog about a personal experience, okay, and I found that if I say I went through this and I did this to come back from it, okay, then it's not received the same way as if I tell exactly the same story, okay, and say, you will experience this, and here you can, right?
Yes.
It's exactly the same story, but I replace I with you,
Yes.
and it's received completely differently.
Absolutely.
You know, and all I'm trying to do is basically, you know, try to prevent somebody from making the same mistakes and going through the same crap that I did, right? I went down that path, I did it. There's no reason for you to stumble and fall in that same mud puddle, you know?
Yeah, you allow them to collapse the timeline between now and then figuring it out and getting it done.
Right. So, but I mean, everybody struggles with it. I struggled with it. You know, I went through, when I got divorced, this is my second marriage, right? So, but when I got divorced, I was at a point in my life where, I mean, it was so dark I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. I was, you know, people talk about rock bottom. I mean, I used to get mail there. That's where I was a regular, you know, and and when I finally got diagnosed with depression and all of that stuff, clinically, it was an eye opener because then I was able to really sit and reflect. And it was, you know, I was in my early 40s. I was probably about 44 when I was diagnosed, but I probably had been struggling with it since I was about 14. You know, so you don't see it in that moment. And when you get called out sometimes, you know, like we were just talking about, when you get called out, it's usually the best thing that could ever happen to you. It pivots.
Yes.
You know, you don't have any choice. You have to pivot.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that now we live in a world where people are more educated about mental health and what that looks like. And there are so many more resources now to get help in terms of the holistic approach altogether as well, of things that you can do in your daily life to put yourself at more of a step up when you're dealing with it. I have a daughter who deals with social anxiety, agoraphobia, and panic disorder, and mood depressive issues. And we believe that my husband, back at her age and younger, also dealt with those things.
Yeah.
But back then, it was like, suck it up, buttercup.
Exactly.
Go to school, get on that bus.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. She's got a whole team of people at her school that help her, you know, detailed reports to me as a mom of the struggles she dealt with. All of our kids are in private, but because of the circumstances, we ended up with our public school system, and they've been phenomenal. Like such a gift to our family.
That's
the
wonderful.
relief to have the support that they provide every day.
I love that. I love public education. I was raised by teachers, so I'm a big fan.
See, I came from public education here in the United States, and I experienced so much bullying. I got into a lot of drugs, just the worst teenager you could possibly have. So, of course, my trauma response was, I'm putting everybody in private school. I don't care how much it costs. I will
Doesn't
do
matter.
everything I can. And then, obviously, another story of how God shows you the way. Just in this situation, we found that public schooling was the place where she was going to get the most support.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you speak English when you came here?
I did not, no.
So,
I would venture to say that neither did my parents, but they would never admit to that. I'm like,
You know-
I think you spoke English.
I had a kid that played basketball for me. When I coached high school basketball for a while, and we had a kid on our team, and I came from Russia, and he had younger siblings. He was the oldest, and he came to us one day, and he was upset. He was just distressed, we could tell, and we asked him what was going on, and he said he had to go with his parents to a parent-teacher conference about his younger brother, who was like, I think he was a senior, his brother was in ninth grade, because his parents didn't speak English. And turns out he was the only one that did. And the younger brother, the school was concerned because he was getting like B's and C's, and where he had come from, he was like straight A's off the chart, and they didn't realize that even though he was getting B's and he didn't speak a word of English.
Wow.
And he was still getting B's with a curriculum that was advanced, But I can't even imagine taking 5 little children to Italy, not speaking a word of Italian, and then getting there and not having any way to support them.
And my mom, back then, there wasn't any internet, there wasn't cell phones. She didn't have any friends. She couldn't drive. She was not allowed to work. She was just at home with a couple of very angry teenagers because they were just uprooted to a different country.
Yeah.
And children who I actually didn't, I was like failing. I could not figure it out because the school system was so different and I didn't speak the language. And they couldn't help me. They didn't know how to help me. So I think about her and I'm like, must have been just so hard. She couldn't call home. She didn't have any friends. She couldn't leave the house because we lived in in rural North Hills of Pittsburgh where public transportation really isn't a thing. And
yeah.
she just was stuck at home.
Well, this has been fantastic. We probably should start wrapping up. We won't take up all your time, but you have created something magical. I mean, not just in I'm not here to blow sunshine up your skirt, kiddo, believe me, but you've created a life and a business and curated this. You have done. I don't know what you haven't done. What is left for you to do? What's out there in your vision 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What's left for you? What would you like to do?
Well, currently I am working on my license as a financial representative. I found that just love money. I love money so much I decided to study it. And obviously coming from the immigrant poor background, that my husband has a similar upbringing, and the media agency is what supported our family while he built the multi-million-dollar land development empire that he's built. But I am working on my financial representative. I've failed the test twice. I'm hoping the third time's the charm, and then there's 2 more tests after that. And I keep thinking about, I would love to get my master's in psychology because I think the money and the mindset just together is just a superpower.
That is awesome. Good for you. And I don't have. I'm sitting here right now. I don't have a single doubt in the world that you'll do it. And you are just
one thing at a time.
Yeah, one at a time. One at a time. Although you might be the best multitasker I've ever met. So what we do, and I don't know how familiar you are with the show, but we have kind of I don't want to cheapen it by calling it a tagline, but our focus here is live, love, learn, pray, and inspire. Those are the 5 pillars of not only of the show, but of the way I live my life. My father used to preach that stuff to me. He used to say, if you do these 5 things every day, you will have a great day. It's impossible not to have a great day. if you really live focused on trying to do those 5 things. So of those things, live, love, learn, pray, and inspire. What one of those resonates with you and why?
Prayer is big. I open my eyes praying. I close my eyes praying. And the morning, you talked about gratefulness. One of the biggest one is just the grateful exercise, is being grateful even for the moments when it does get so dark that you can't see your hand in front of you. Being grateful for those moments of feeling those feels and the lessons that you'll learn and the growth that you'll get to experience that you'll appreciate even more because you were in that place. Prayer is huge.
It's absolutely huge. Well, listen, Marta, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you you coming on with us, and I want you to do me a favor. I spent my entire life until 3 years ago thinking my mother was Italian.
Did she yell a lot? Did she eat a lot of pasta?
Well, yeah. No. Listen, she did. But here's the thing. So, my grandfather's name was Giuseppe Dorguzzi. Okay.
That sounds Italian.
That sounds Italian, right? So, my wife got me one of those ancestry DNA things.
Okay.
So just as a lark, and I did it, and it came back, and
Not Italian.
It won Italian. He was the only one.
Okay.
So apparently he came here from Italy, met my grandmother, and they got married, and but yeah, nothing. It turns out I'm Irish, Scottish, Belgian, all these different things. So what I'd like for you to do is sign us off.
I'm just kidding.
No, sign us off in Italian.
Okay. Arrivederci.
There you go. That's all it is. See? Perfect. Thank you so much, kiddo. I appreciate it. It's wonderful to sit down and chat with you. We should have done it sooner.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
No, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.